Yeah, we put in work and here's the proof. What you want?
I'm making moves, punching in.
I'm on it too.
I'm in the gym.
I'm in the stew.
It's hunting season.
Where's the food?
We push each other daily, level up.
Cause that's what brothers do.
Clock in.
So we're here, man. Episode 46, Clocking the Podcast. Co-host Austin Hamilton here. Marshall is out again for the second week. I may be looking for a new co-host, man. I can't even fake. He's taking advantage of his PTO right now. But it's all love, man. He'll be back next week. Yeah, man, we're doing this via Zoom, which means we got a special guest, and I'm very excited for this one. I've known him for a couple years now. Through the game of basketball, and got to know him a little bit and see kind of who he is as a hooper first, but also just how good of a man he is and what he's about and the message that he's trying to spread, man. So without further ado, Malcolm Lemmons, man, appreciate you tapping in with us, bro.
My God, man, it's an honor and a privilege, man. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So I think the best way to start, man, is the connection, and how we met, and how that relationship started. So I'll let you go, but I know I got some stuff to say with it.
Yeah, hooping, man. That's
Yep.
The game, man. It allows you to build a lot of relationships with people. I think that's the greatest blessing that basketball has given me is the people that I've met throughout the years. You being one of them, but just being able to, call, these guys my brothers. And whether it's a men's league or, AAU, you look back on all the years and the people that you've met and the relationships that you built, that's the most valuable thing of all. So, man, I'm honored to, call you a friend and a brother, man. And been in the trenches, in the men's leagues battling, and so that's the joy right there, man. So it's been great.
Yeah, man, no doubt. And I believe we won what, one or two of them joints?
Yeah, definitely one.
Yeah, I know we won one.
Yeah.
And
the pandemic slowed us down, man.
It definitely did. But so for me, man, I being on the other side of the bridge, out in Northern Virginia, you don't get to see the top talent, out of the DMV as much as you would like, right? You don't get to compete against them as much as you would like, unless you play like on the AAU side.
Right.
And I wasn't up until like my senior year, but you had already graduated. But I remember just following the post, man, and seeing you and your name in there. And on the AAU circuit, you're with Assault, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So always been a fan of your game, man. And I remember when Brooks was like, yeah, man, we got a guy Malcolm about to play with us. I was like, all right, I know a bunch of Malcolms, but when you showed up, I was like, yeah, okay, like we gonna have some bump now. So yeah, man, I've always been a fan of your game, and for me, it's like being on that Virginia side. You always want to compete against, the DC, Maryland guys, because y'all get most of the praise. Like let's be real,
that's
y'all get
true.
most of the praise. So like as a VA guy, man, we're always ready to meet up against y'all. But I know for me, I didn't have the chance in high school. But it was definitely fun to play with you because, like I said, I've been watching from afar. And seeing, Gonzaga where you played high school and, with Assault kind of run the DMV area. So it was definitely an honor for me, man. So yeah, man, I think to piggyback off that, where did it start from you, from the game? Like how did it start? How old were you? And when did you fall in love with it?
Yeah, so I grew up in the city, man. Single parent household, me, my mom, and my brother, and I. We moved around a lot. I never had a stable childhood, and so I think going through a lot of negative circumstances in my life, I kind of looked for escape, and basketball was really the thing I kind of gravitate towards because I played all sports growing up, man.
Mm-hmm.
Initially wanted to play in the NFL, but I think I moved closer towards basketball because it was a sport you could just go out and play by yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So I would, after school, you know, go to the courts and just shoot for hours, you know, and it was really an escape. But the more, you know, going back to the relationship aspects, I met a lot of my friends early on through basketball, playing in, you know, Boys and Girls Club, things of that nature. And, you know, that combined with like just the competitive side of it all, it really kind of created, you know, the passion for the game for me. And it really drove me to see basketball as something I could do to potentially provide for my family and something, you know, I could turn into a career. And so I didn't really start taking the game seriously probably until I got to high school. Okay. And going to Gonzaga, man, you know, that's WCAC, one of the most competitive basketball leagues in the country.
The best.
So,
the best,
man. I mean, flat out, man. You compete against guys who Division I talent every single time you step on the court. Yeah. And you know, talk about going back to Tyler, man. I remember going into freshman year, man. We go on a 5-star basketball camp, and you know, we all get into the school, about to get on the bus to go down to 5-star Hampden, Sydney. And I meet Tyler for the first time. This dude got a mustache. I'm like, what grade you in, bro?
Yo.
He was like, I'm a freshman. I said, ain't no way. There's no way this dude's a freshman. And that was eye-opening for me. I'll never forget that moment because I'm like, man, this dude's out here that's like mature, got game, that can play, you know, with the best of the best. And I'm like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to, you know, try to be this professional athlete or at least make it to college, like I got to take this game seriously. And so it was at that moment I kind of decided I was going to put 100% effort into the game and see where it takes me, man. So that's really how it started. But, you know, the more I was able to compete and the more, you know, I stepped on that court and just wanted to win, wanted to play at the highest level possible.
Yeah, man. And going back to Tyler, Tyler Dorton, for those of you who don't know him, he grew up in the area, played at Gonzaga with Malcolm, and ended up playing at Duke and some pro as well. But so first time I seen Tyler, it was actually at my high school's basketball camp. And his, like, the whole AAU team, he was playing with the Virginia Vipers at that point in time. And they came to the camp, like the whole mob. So I'm like, bet, like, yo, we about to get this bump this camp this week. And this dude, Tyler, I promise you, like, going back to what you said, like, had the mustache. Son was in like the 6th grade, was like 6 feet, you know what I'm saying? Like, was cut up. He probably had a mustache too. And I'm like, yo, like, this dude is a year above me. So he's always just been, you know, been different, man. And I respect Tyler a lot, man, because you know, for him to be like Gatorade Player of the Year and you know, go on to play at Duke and accept the role that he did and not, you know, really have an ego. Like, I got a lot of respect for that, man, because I kind of had a similar situation in college too, right? Like, you know, when you get to that level, man, you got to accept the role. And
exactly.
It takes, you got to put your pride aside. And he did that. So I always got a lot of respect for Tyler, man. And then, you know, what I loved about kind of your story, man, you know, you mentioned that, you know, you were a single parent household. And I see a lot of kids when they come in a situation like that, they kind of let that excuse, you know, kind of take over in their life and not try to strive for better, right? And find an avenue that can provide and put them in the right situation. You know, and for you, it was basketball, right? It was a game that you know, allows you to meet people, most importantly, meet the right people, and within that, you know, have a chance to get a scholarship, and you know, later provide, right? So talk about, you know, when you found out, you know, after Gonzaga had a really good career there. Talk about, when you made your decision to go to college, and how impactful that was for you?
Yeah, man, the recruiting process was crazy. I remember I committed. So me, Tyler, and Cedric Lindsay, who was another guard in our
Yep.
class, went to the University of Richmond. We all signed our letters of intent, I believe right before our senior year. So I think that October, when that first signing period, we all committed. And I had originally committed to Robert Morris University. A lot
They
of people
recruited
don't
me
know
too.
that.
They recruited me too. Yeah.
Mike Rice and
Yep.
so a lot of people don't know the story as to why I decommitted. And even before that, man, I wanted to go to University of Vermont. They recruited me really hard, and the morning I was going to commit, they had another guard commit, and so that's kind of where I kind of settled on Robert Morris. But after senior season, graduated, I got a call. Maybe it was a couple days after graduation that the whole staff at Robert Morris was leaving to go to Rutgers.
Wow.
And that was like the first taste of like the business side of college basketball, because the coaching staff had promised me they weren't going anywhere. There was rumors out there and all this stuff. And so they were a big reason as to why I wanted to go to Robert Morris, because, I was going to play right away as a freshman. I just felt like the coaching staff had my best interest in mind. And so when they left, I really didn't know what to do. And so ultimately decided to reopen my recruitment, and didn't know where I was going to school for 2 weeks after graduation. And, prep school was on the table. Brewster was one of the schools I was looking at. But Niagara University kind of came out of the blue, and I heard of the school before. There was two really good players from Gonzaga who had gone there several years before. So I knew a little bit about the program, but not much. But the coaching staff brought me up there on a visit, and man, I loved the campus, met some of the guys on the team, and just fell in love with everything, the program as a whole, and ended up committing to Niagara that weekend. 2 weeks after 2 or 3 weeks after I graduated from high school. So that's how I ended up at Niagara. But man, it was a lot more ups and downs than I thought it would be. I think, for a lot of guys, you have this, this idea in your head of how your college experience will go, and going back to like having a role, like I fought against that a lot in college, and there were some bumps in the road. And, looking back, there were some things I definitely wish I would have did differently throughout my college career. But, a lot of the stuff that I learned along the way kind of made me the person I am today. So, like I said, college recruitment process, I'm sure it's crazy for everybody, but, that was kind of my story, how I ended up going to Niagara.
Yeah, no, and I can wholeheartedly, relate to the ups and downs, man. And, at a high school, both of us all met, what I'm saying? Like, you're on a high horse and you get to college and you're thinking, it's going to be a similar situation like it was in high school. But I think that's really when life like hits you. Like for me,
Right.
I battled with a bunch of injuries, up and down when it came to, starting, coming off the bench. But like you said, man, like it's an experience that's needed for you, because it really tests you. And it really allows you to see who you are as a man, and overall as a person. But yeah, going back to the recruiting, and I always ask, athletes like yourself, like, what advice would you give, someone coming up? Obviously it's a different landscape now, which we'll get into later, with your book. But what advice would you give kids, coming up, trying to get recruited, aspirations to play D1?
That's a great question, man. I think one of the best things that I can tell kids is to choose a university that's going to that you not for the coaching staff, or choose a university solely based off of the fact it's the best choice for you as a person and where you're going to grow and develop as a not only as a basketball player but as a student athlete. And I think for me, like, committing to Robert Morris, I mainly did that because of the coaching staff. And when they left, and you kind of see how my situation turned out, and not that, Niagara was a bad choice or anything like that. But I just think that at the time, I didn't really know how to navigate the recruiting process, didn't have a lot of guidance or advice. And so I was kind of doing a lot of things based off of like how I felt about the people or the coaching staff, instead of like, is this going to be the best university, regardless of who's coaching me? You know what I'm saying? Is this going to be the best place for me to develop as an athlete and as a student? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the biggest thing, is like having that self-awareness and understanding where you're going to be able to become a man in your own right. And also think about the relationship that you're going to build along the way, as far as like the alumni base and the administration on campus, because those people are also, once you're done playing basketball, you want to have those relationships intact. So understanding that, a lot of like your college experience is going to be based off of like the relationships that you build off the court as well. So, I think it's a lot of different factors that play a part in trying to choose the right college. And I think it's really hard for, young athletes to do that these days. And you have a lot of external pressure and people, it's a lot of noise out there. So I think it's very difficult, but it's really about doing what's best for you and where you're going to grow and develop as a person, as a whole, not just as an athlete.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. And I think for me, and this, you may have the same, goal, which I'm sure you did, but I wanted to play pro, after college. And I know with Elon, right, like, again, similar to you, great campus, great school, great coaching staff. But I think, selfishly for me, man, if I were to do it all over again, I would have went to a school where I knew I could play my game and I wouldn't have to worry about, having the lock on, under a system.
Yeah.
And I think, with my son coming up, and who knows if he wants to play college basketball, but I think I can use that experience, as guidance for him to say, look, man, you gotta have a path, and within that path, like, you gotta be strategic about it, right?
Yeah.
So like letting him know, hey, man, if you want to play outside of college, you want to play pro, you got to go to a school where they're going to let you be you, where they're going to put you in the right position, because especially now, man, it's a business, right? And I didn't think that way, when I was coming up. I was more so caught up in like, it was like ratio was like 60-40 girl to boy ratio.
Yeah.
Being out in North Carolina, it's one of the best, college states. So yeah, I think it's important, obviously the relationship aspect is the biggest reason I think college is even what it is. But like as an athlete, man, you got to really like be strategic about, where you're going and fit. Cause that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, after Niagara, had a really good career, and, your next stop was to play pro, right? So, just talk a little bit about, that decision-making. Cause again, I think this is valuable information for kids who are, coming up into their senior year, and they may not know if they want to play pro, or they do know. But if you can, just kind of walk them through your process and kind of what you learned from it.
Man, that process was hell. Because I actually ended up transferring. So I left Niagara my junior year. So I went out to a D2 school in California called Cal State San Marcos. And I actually ended up having the best year I ever had playing basketball. It was really kind of, me taking a leap of faith.
Wait, let me pause you there, Malcolm. Because I think that's super important too. You went from Division I, you get all the gear, whatever. You probably flying private sometimes, and you humbled yourself to go to a D2. And maybe this D2 was, similar to D1, but like, to me, that's like, that one that shows you love the game of basketball, right? And two, you understood in order for me to like be Malcolm and be who I know I am, like I got to go somewhere where they'll allow me to do that. And that's something, again, that I kind of wish I did. But yeah, I had to pause you there because I think that's powerful, man, because kids get caught up in that. I want to go D1 and all that stuff, but it may not be the best fit for them.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, man, I had a goal in mind. I had an objective I was trying to reach, which was to become a professional athlete. That was, like you said, that was your goal. That was my goal. It's a lot of kids' goals. And I was willing to do whatever, I needed to do in order to put myself in the best position for me to make that happen. And at the time, my junior year at Niagara, I had a bad ankle injury, and my minutes were really up and down. Was butting heads with the coaching staff, but we were playing. I mean, we were having a great season, so there was nothing I really could say that can, allow me to get more minutes on the floor.
Yeah.
And I was really struggling. It was just junior year is a big year, man. It's a big year for every athlete, and so with that not going my way, but us still having a successful season, it was very hard for me to kind of sit back and watch that from a selfish perspective. But ultimately, man, the coaching staff in Niagara ended up leaving my junior year, and then eight players, including me, transferred that year. Wow. So, I mean, I felt like I needed a start, and I knew the coaching staff that was coming into Niagara wouldn't have my best interest in mind. I was going to be a senior. They're not worried about the guys that's headed out. They're worried about, how can we make the program successful the next several years to come. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, if I want to play pro, this might not be the best, situation for me to be in. I need to go someplace where I'm going to be able to show my skills, where I'm going to be able to continue getting better as a player. And fortunately, I had a former teammate at Niagara who had transferred to the school out in California. And as soon as he heard like all these players were leaving, he hit me up. He was like, yo, man, he was like, it's a school out here that I'm going to. The head coach used to coach at UCLA and USC. It'll be a fresh start for you. He loves like Division I bounce back guys who have a chip on their shoulder. It was actually an NAIA school when I went there. It's a Division II school now, but it was NAIA. And I'm like, I didn't even know what NAIA was at the time. I'm like, dude, you want me to leave this Division I school to go to an NAIA school? Yeah. I'm like, man, you crazy. He was like, bro, just come out here for a visit in San Diego, and you're going to love the weather, women, da-da-da. I was like, all right, man, I'll come out here for a visit. Bro, I went out there, man, and I was like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying right here. I'm staying right here. So I ended up committing to that school. And like I said, it was a leap of faith because, here I am a senior now. I got one season to really prove myself to show, that I'm capable of playing at the next level, whatever, whether that's overseas, D-League at the time or whatever. And so I went out there, man. We had a fantastic season. I was an All-American Defensive Player of the Year. We were 32-2. We almost actually beat San Diego State. We put them in an exhibition game, almost beat them. So, it was a group of guys that most of us had came from Division I schools. This was kind of like our last shot at like trying to prove ourselves on the college level. And, we, like I said, a fantastic year. And that was really the way that I was afforded the opportunity to go play overseas, because I don't think I would have, had that if I would have stayed at Niagara. But with that being said, like, it still wasn't like a cakewalk, like navigating that, trying to be a pro. And again, with that, not a lot of guidance or help, was very challenging. And there was a lot of mistakes I made. Everything from like, I should have signed with an agent sooner. I should have probably went to some exposure camps. I did none of that. I had a coach who had gotten a job out in Japan, and he basically came to practice one day, probably around like the end of my senior year out in California. And he was like, yo, like, you want to come out here and play? I'm going to be the assistant coach. And I was like, why not? You know what I'm saying? It's an opportunity. So I took up that opportunity, and we can get into the whole story of like what that first year was like, man, but it was crazy. It was crazy. I remember, getting over there and not having a bed to sleep on. Oh, wow. I didn't have Wi-Fi. I couldn't talk to my mom. We were walking to practice. It was bad, man. It was bad. We weren't really getting paid. And, more of like understanding the business side of the game and how you have to navigate yourself in these situations. And at this point, you're a pro now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's nobody holding your hand or coddling you. Like you got to man up and learn how to survive. And that's more than anything else. Like that's what being overseas taught me, is like how to get out the mud, like figure it out and deal with these problems that arise. So, with all that being said, man, like the lessons that I've taken away from the game, not only on the court, but off of it as well, as far as just how to be a professional. That doesn't just entail like how you're playing, but it involves your emotions, how you talk to people, how you negotiate, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, basketball has given me so many life lessons that I've been able to transfer over, and a lot came from like having to figure out how to be a pro at the highest level.
Yep. No, that's huge, man. And you've got an amazing story, and you can tell you've got a true appreciation for the game and all the life lessons that it's brought you. Because I think Kobe said it, man, but basketball is the greatest metaphor to life. And if you can adopt that that mentality and that perspective, you really get to see like just the beauty of it, man, and what it can do for your life. And that's any sport. So, within your experience, through, your professional career and, what you came out of that, you became a pro, right? You achieve your goal. And, I tip my hat off to anybody that, has been coming up, especially in a situation like you, man. And, that's something to be proud of.
Clock in family, Aham here. Appreciate you all for making it this far into the episode. If you enjoy our content, we've got something special for you. Check out patreon.com/clockin or download the Patreon app that's spelled Patreon and search Clock In the Podcast. You'll have a chance to become a subscriber of the podcast for access to bonus episodes, merchandise discounts, and much more, only at $5.10 a month. The link is also in the podcast description. All right, I'll shut up now and let y'all get back to it. Peace.
Because no one can take that from you, right? And that's just a true testament to you, who you are as a man and as a competitor. So I think a good segue from that is kind of what you're doing now, and with your background and what brought you to what you're doing now, and the impact of what you're doing. So could you just talk a little bit about kind of what you're doing now and where you see yourself going?
Yes, I mean, I stopped, officially retired in 2017. What kind of led me to transitioning out of basketball was really, that second year I was playing overseas, and I came in the middle of the season. We had like a month-long break, just practicing for a few hours a day, but I had the rest of the day to myself, and didn't have second season, didn't have Wi-Fi again. So I'm getting over there and I can't really talk to nobody. Didn't know my teammates well, didn't know the city, obviously. So I'm sitting in my loft. I'm in Tokyo this next year. And I'm sitting in there and I'm like, I got all this time on my hands. And my mind was just like all over the place. I just trying to get settled, but still like, where is this basketball thing? Like, how did I get here? How did this basketball thing kind of bring me to this point in life? And it led me to a period where I was just reflecting on all my experiences, some of the things that I had to go through to become a professional. But I just needed to get those thoughts out somehow. And all of that kind of led me to start writing. And I never considered myself to be a writer. It was nothing I aspired to do, but it felt so natural at the time. And I had a computer and I just started to type, bro. And to make a long story short, I started sharing a lot of the stuff that I was putting on paper with other people. And, a few people suggested that I write a book. I had pretty inspiring story, had been through a lot to become a professional athlete. I was like, nah, I don't want to be no author, man. Like that ain't, that ain't me. The more I thought about it, man, I'm like, there's going to be other kids who go through the exact same things that I go through. And they're going to want to chase this dream of becoming a professional athlete, but it really isn't a ton of, content or knowledge around how to navigate certain situations you might go through. And I just looked at my story as not really being about me, but being about the next kid who's going to face these challenges as well. So that's what really kind of led me to start writing more and publish that book when I came back home. And that was the beginning of that transition into life after basketball. I started to get like speaking opportunities, media opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. And it really kind of led me down this path of like using my story, using the things that basketball has taught me about life and giving that to the next athletes that's coming up, whether that's about like, branding as NIL is a big topic these days. Like, what is an athlete's brand? How does that kind of incorporate into their legacy and things they do off the court? So like, how do you navigate certain situations with coaches? Whatever, I have been through or what I know about, navigating your athletic career, I just try to pass on a lot of that to the next generation of athletes or athletes who, like I said, are going to face those challenges themselves. And that's kind of what led me to, the two books that I wrote, Since From the Game and Impact Beyond the Game, and what I really hope to do with those books.
Yep. And start with the lessons from the game. That was the first book that you wrote. Okay. And that was more inspired when you were overseas.
Yeah. So it basically just talked about my story. And then what I felt like was the key lessons and tangibles that I gained, through basketball and through going through this process of becoming a professional athlete. No,
that's so important, man. Because, especially to the Black community, right? Like, we're more inclined to go towards that athletic route. And, I would encourage, all young athletes, man, to tap into that book. And I need to buy them. So I'm make sure I do that, once we're done. Cause I know, again, I got a son now and I got another one on the way. So, by them reading that and saying, look, this is stuff that may come across your journey. Right. But, how you handle it is really what matters. So super, super powerful, man. Can you just talk about, and I was always curious, like how long did that take you to write it? And like, what type of help did you have along the way?
Man, that first book, I had no help. I just was just figuring out as I went along, man.
Yeah.
It was like, writing for me, bro, is something that comes very naturally. I think it's always important to kind of assess what your strengths are in life, because that's going to be the thing that you're going to be able to do innately. It's just going, like I said, it came so naturally to me that it wasn't like writing wasn't even the hardest part. I was able to write very concisely and the challenge is the formatting and the editing, but getting your thoughts on the paper, that's something I'm great at doing. And so I would say writing the book really didn't take that long, but like going back and editing and making sure it's structured in a proper way is probably the longest part. And that first book maybe took close to a year and a half to complete in total, from like when I first started writing to like the actual publishing process. The second book didn't take as long. I had more help and obviously knew the process a little bit better. So I would say and a lot of the content in the second book is stuff that I had written about before, on different publications. So it was kind of just me regurgitating it and just putting it into a book. format. So it took maybe 8 months total.
Got
So, like I said, really the biggest challenge is that in part, making sure it flows well, making sure it makes sense. But the writing part isn't really the challenge for me, because writing is just something I'm just good at doing.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine, man, like, because I know, like, for me, I actually enjoy writing a bit, because it's almost therapeutic,
Right.
being able to just, express your thoughts on paper. It's therapeutic. Is that something you did like growing up, or did that just start when you were overseas?
I didn't realize it, but yeah, it was. Going back to my childhood, man, I was never like, I'm not really extroverted. I was never the most talkative kid. But writing was a way that I would express myself, like anything that I was going through or feeling or experiencing, like I would write about it. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, it was very therapeutic and something that allowed me to, just get it out there without having to like sit down and talk to somebody about it. So I didn't subconsciously, it was something I always did, but didn't realize that probably until a couple of years ago, actually.
Man, no, that's powerful stuff. It's funny, a friend of mine who we actually had on the pod last week. He's a rapper, and he said, like, when he was young, similar to you, man, he would keep things to himself, and he just started writing, and then as he progressed and started to get more into music, that's like what led him to become a rapper. And he's super dope. So it's always cool to hear that, that side of the story. And then with the second book, obviously you mentioned, impact beyond the game, with, the NLI stuff that, has taken the athletic world, college athletic world by storm. You were talking about this stuff before it happened, right? So was there anything within your experience that like you realized like, yo, this isn't right? Like when you're at Niagara, was there something that just kind of sparked it to where it's like what's going on? Why aren't we getting compensated on certain things?
Not at the moment. I mean, looking back, I don't really think I thought about it like that when I was in college. I was always like, aside from me being an athlete, business is something I was always interested in various capacities. Like I was a kid in high school that if I wasn't on the court, like if I wasn't playing basketball, I was flipping shoes. I sold candy, and I was a hustler, man. Anything that I can get my hands on, like I would sell it, and I've always just been like that. And so I've had this entrepreneurial spirit, and so I was even like doing that stuff in college, like under the table. Like I wasn't like no enterprise or empire, but right. I had little hustles in college that just didn't get caught, or like coaches wasn't like checking for me. But so I don't think I really thought about like making money or like not being able to profit off of my image. Like it just something that wasn't really talked about at the time. It wasn't until, and I can't remember what year this is, maybe 2016, when the Ed O'Bannon case, that lawsuit, the video game lawsuit, and we got compensated for that. It wasn't until that. I can't remember what year that was exactly.
You got a bag
I got
for
some
that?
money off of that.
Yo,
a little bit of money.
Yo, what's good? I gotta find my check, man.
I got a little bit. It wasn't life changing, man, but it was a little pocket change. But it wasn't until that where I really started to pay attention. Like, then, like, you really can't make money as a student athlete. Like, that it didn't make sense to me that once I got into the real world and understood economics and how the NCAA is structured a little bit more, that I was like, this is more of a civil rights issue than anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, student athletes, the cheerleaders can make money. Every other person in this country besides the student athletes can use their name, image, and likeness to make money. Like that's a basic human right that they're not allowing these student athletes to take advantage of. Yeah, exploitation. So that was really what led me down the rabbit hole to like start thinking about athletes as brands, athletes, you know, who this platform that you have while, you know, you're in college. A lot of athletes, that's the pinnacle of their athletic careers, being in college, you know, being on campus and people knowing your name, recognizing you. Most of these athletes won't go pro, but when they're on college in some of these smaller towns, everybody knows them. Yeah. So you're, you know what I'm saying, you're preventing these athletes from being able to use their name, image, and likeness at the height of their athletic careers. That's an injustice. And the more I started to research, the more I was like, this is a big problem. And regardless of whether like it turns out to be where athletes can monetize their platforms like that, I didn't know if that, like, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, I'm Nostradamus and predicted this would happen. But I was more so speaking about why it's important for athletes to understand that this short window of time that you have is important for you to capitalize off of it, regardless of whether you're making money or not. Like, how are you expressing yourself on social media? Like, what is the story and the messages that you're putting out there? What is branding? You know, how do you build these relationships from a business standpoint, network, and all these different things that incorporates your personal brand? That's really what I want athletes to understand, that you can utilize your platform in order to create something that's going to be sustainable in life after sports. And if you can make money while doing that, then, you know, so it be. But that was really the start of it for me, and kind of what led me to want to write this next book, and why I thought it was really important given the day and age that we live in.
Yeah, man. No, it's super important, and your book is needed. And like, yeah, it was crazy to me. So one, I remember this. My coach had put like a season ticket card, like in my locker, and that's kind of when it hit me, because like my face was all over it, and I'm like they're using me for all this branding and marketing. Like, I got some teammates on billboards. We literally had just played Duke on national TV. Tyler and them got us up out of there. I won't lie, but but yeah, it's like, yo, we're pros. Like, we're literally pros. And I tell people all the time, like, my experience from playing Division I to like when I got to play professional, night and day. Like, I'm flying private when I was at Elon a couple times a year, you know, all the gear. You're traveling to games, dinners, all this stuff. Like, you're a pro in college, but you just can't get compensated, and it didn't feel right. So it's refreshing to see that, you know, these athletes now can profit, you know, off their image, name, and likeness, and especially from a social media standpoint, because it was different when we were coming up. Like, now these high school kids, I mean, like, millions of followers now, you know, all the different mixtape videos. Literally all you can do is throw a brand on there, and that's a check, right? So I mean, there's so many different ways to leverage social media and you know, your successes, man. So I'm excited to see where it takes, because this was long overdue.
Yeah, and what I think was even more important than the monetary aspect of it is business skills that these student athletes are going to be able to build, as far as understanding contracts, understanding taxes and corporations and legalities, like all these different things that when you get into the real world, like, they ain't teaching you the shit. Like, you really got to figure it out on your own. So allowing these student athletes to be entrepreneurs, to be brands. And, you know, obviously they're going to make mistakes. These are still kids at the end of the day. And it's largely, you know, up to these universities to provide the right programming and resources to ensure that, you know, these mistakes are mitigated. You know, they're not, just signing any old deals. They're understanding the ramifications of the contracts they sign. But I think as long as you are, educating and empowering these student athletes to make the right decisions, that, you know, the ripple effects from, or the outcome of that, is going to be successful adults. You know, they're going to understand how to navigate the business world and being entrepreneurs and things of that nature. So I think the skills that they're gaining from doing this is more important than the money, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The skill set, and then just the relationship building. I mean, that's the money will come, man. It's really, at least from what I've learned, like you said, it's about the skill set. It's about the relationships you build. And these kids will have an optimal opportunity to build those relationships, but also, do the lessons learned, develop the skill set. And then, I would hope that, now that athletes can leverage, their compensation or whatever, I would hope there would be some sort of curriculum for these kids so they can, go through a course or just have some insight how to best navigate through that. Shoot, maybe you should teach, man. Maybe that's your next call.
I've had a talks with a couple of different universities about programming and trying to implement some educational material based off of the book into the universities. But not sure, man. Like, going back to understanding your strengths. I don't know if I'm the best teacher. I could definitely put it on the paper, but we'll see what happens, man. I think there's a lot of people who obviously are getting into the space because it's a money grab, but there's been people, throughout the past several years who are, advocates for student athletes and who are doing an incredible job. Whether that's in workshops, trainings, we're really trying to, and going back to empowering and just teaching these athletes what they need to know. There's a lot of, different companies and individuals that I know personally that are doing a fantastic job. So as long as, the universities are doing the right thing by the student athletes and ensuring that they just have an understanding of the landscape and the ecosystem, then, what I'm saying, like, however I can best help kind of move the needle forward, I'm definitely going to be a supporter and advocate for it as well.
Yeah, man, no doubt. And look, last question for me, man. I don't want to hold you, but what's next? You got your 2 books. You're heavy into business. What's the next goal for you?
Man, I honestly got a lot of things I'm working on right now. One of the biggest being, it's kind of like a side project. It's called Athletes Unheard, and it's really focused on creating content and conversation at the intersection of athletes and mental health. So one of the biggest things that I see a lot of athletes facing nowadays is like dealing with, the noise that's out there as far as social media. How do you balance it all? How do you deal with the anxiety, the pressure, depression, especially going through the pandemic? And, facing my own personal challenges, but noticing how these issues around mental health have become more prevalent. We've seen with Naomi Osaka. So what we're really trying to do with the platform is just get athletes talking about it, be more transparent and open about their experiences, and understanding that, whether you are, facing depression or dealing with some type of, mental health challenge, like you have a support system, a community that's going to help you kind of navigate through that, just taking a more proactive approach to what mental health means and really trying to help remove the stigma. Because I think, athletes, Black men also, like, we don't talk about mental health. We don't take a proactive approach. So we're really just trying to change that narrative and create, a support system for athletes who might be going through challenges related to their mind and their mental health.
Yeah, no, that's special, man. And with your books and your story and all the different projects that you got going on, you can tell you got the right heart about it. You're really in it for the service aspect and the empowerment of it. So tip my hat off to you, bro, and definitely wish you nothing but the best. Last thing, man, where can they get the books? Where can they follow you on social? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, definitely, probably. I mean, I'm all over every social media platform at Malcolm Lemmons, so pretty easy to find. But if anybody wants to hit me up, Instagram is probably the best way. And you can cop the books on Amazon. So that's probably the best way to get them in there. Athletes Unheard. We're on every social media platform as well. And the website is athletesunheard.com. So got a docu-series that we're producing, filming the next 2 episodes this month in LA, actually. So trying to highlight athletes who have been through their own personal struggles and their stories. So a lot of exciting things to come, man. And definitely, I'm appreciative of the opportunity, bro. And so looking forward to continue, building together.
Yeah, man, no doubt. Malcolm Lemmons, author, entrepreneur, bucket getter still. I know he's still a bucket getter. But overall, good dude, man. But again, appreciate you clocking in with us. And last question, and I forgot to run this by you. So me and my brothers, we started a basketball company called The Goods. And we had an idea inspired by what's going on now, the TBT tournament. So we were going to do like a DMV, like high school joint. So basically have pretty much call it like the All Met Classic. So like Gonzaga could have a mob in it. So like alumni from Gonzaga, the whole WCAC, guys from out my way in Northern Virginia. I need y'all to tap into it, dog. Because I think it could be a really big thing. I mean, hoops in this area.
Say no more.
Hoops in this area. So 2022, man, we're looking to put that on. So I need Gonzaga, I need Tyler, I need Cedric, I need all y'all. Is Cedric still playing? I can't remember.
Cedric said it's done.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah,
I think
he
had a
knee
injury. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
We got some other guys that, man.
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, I'm literally watching the TBT one day. I'm like, yo, like, we could do this at a local level here in the DMV, and that joint would be jumping. So yeah, man, I'll start spreading the word if you can. 2022, we're gonna do it big, man. All Met Classic. I'm gonna say this, Herndon. We're gonna have a little mob, man. I don't know if y'all know a little bit about Herndon, but we got some guys out here. Yes, sir.
I already know. I'm up.
Yep. But hey, man, again, appreciate you, bro. And if there's anything else, you need from us, man, don't hesitate to reach out.
No questions, my guy. I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. I'll talk soon.
All right.
Peace.
We put in work and here's the proof. What you want?
I'm making moves, punching in.
I'm on it too.
I'm in the gym.
I'm in the stew.
It's hunting season.
Where's the food?
We push each other daily, level up.
Cause that's what brothers do.
Clock in.